Hi everyone, I'm Ebony Love and I'm here to show you my video with the Sizzix Big Shot. I named my Sizzix Big Shot Isis. She's pretty in pink and she's got a little bit of bling on her case here. I don't know if you can see the little rhinestones there, but she's just as cute as a button, and I've been doing a lot of playing around with some of the dies. So this project that I'm going to show you here is made with the bottle die. This is a pretty popular die. It's becoming one of my favorites with Sizzix. And I love just dealing with the gentle curves and coming up with different shapes to cut out on this die. So I'm going to set the machine aside for a second and let's take a look at this die, because I've gotten a lot of questions about how to deal with these clear dies. So as you can see, this particular die has a clear case on the back, and you can see the shape of the bottle cut out here. And if I turn this over, you can see that there's the foam shape and there's a clear section here, so I've got my hand sort of in the section here. You do want to be careful with these clear dies because the blade is exposed here on the edge. So you do want to be careful when you are using the clear dies. And how the clear dies are meant to be used is specifically for fussy cutting. I've gotten some questions from people about what fussy cutting actually is. So I'll just give you a brief demonstration without actually performing the cut, but I'll just show you what fussy cutting is used for. So let's say I've got this neat print with a design that I want to actually center in my cut. So this fabric is actually a little perfect for the bottle die because it's got some drink recipes on it. And what I could do is use this die and sort of center it over the recipe there. And this particular recipe is probably a little bit too wide for this bottle, but I could sort of get that design sort of perfectly aligned underneath the bottle. And to make this cut then, what I would do is go ahead and layer my fabric underneath with the design exposed where I want it. I would put my mat on the bottom and the top and run it through the cutter, and that's going to give me a perfectly centered motif. So it's great for things like florals and words and different things that are spaced evenly across where you want to actually get it centered on the design. How I'm actually using this bottle die is in a different way, and that's to do these continuous curved pieces. This piece is actually a piece that I've trimmed down. I'm actually going to be submitting this into the QuiltCon block challenge that the Modern Quilt Guild is having this year. And I love to do these continuous shapes. I have another shape here that I can show you that maybe shows you a little bit better what I'm talking about. This is using the bottle die and cutting a continuous curve. So this is a really neat project to do when you want to make something that has some really gentle curves. But there are a couple of lines that you want to mark across your die. So I'll take you through some of the marking that I have here. And I tend to do a lot of registration marking on my dies. The first set of lines that I draw is a line that is 1/4 of an inch outside of the shape. So this line here, the line along the bottom, this line along the side, and then this line along the top. These are all spaced 1/4 of an inch away from the outside of the blade. So that gives me a specific distance, and I've marked this on the die as well, that shows you that to cover this shape takes a piece of fabric that is 3.5 inches wide by 7 inches tall. So that's the lines that I drew that are 1/4 inch away. To do the continuous shape, I need to actually set this up so that I am not cutting with all 4 sides of the shape. So I've drawn another set of lines that are 1/4 of an inch inside the blade line. So this line here and this line here. And when I measure the distance between those two lines, it ends up being about 6 inches. And that's important to sort of know so you can figure out how long of a piece of fabric you'll need to make a continuous shape. Okay? And then this last line is just a center alignment line for some other things that I'm experimenting with. So for this project you don't need this center line, but these other lines should be pretty helpful for you to have. Now for this continuous project that I've been working on, I use this shape face up, and it can be a little bit challenging to get the fabric to sort of play nice with the clear dyes because of the space that's missing inside of the dye. So what I do is I've taken just a piece of cardstock that I have cut in half, and this sort of covers the inside of the shape and gives a little bit of protection. I don't actually cut with the cardstock in place. It's just sort of a platform to use for this. For the continuous bottle shape that you'll see in this video and also in the stitching video that you'll be able to watch, I have cut several pieces of fabric. So I have 4 colors here, and these are from the Modern Quilt Guild logo, so there are 4 of the colors. These are Kona cotton solids, and I've cut these strips to be 18 inches long and 6 inches wide. And I chose the 18 inches because 18 is a multiple of 6, and that just makes it really handy to do quick math, and so that I can do this continuous shape. So the multiple of 6 is because the lines that I drew on this die that are 1/4 of an inch inside the shape are 6 inches apart. So that's why I use a multiple of 6 to determine the length. The width I chose is just because it's wide enough to cover the die and give me just some extra pieces to work with, so it's just a little bit easier to use on the die. Now, to make the continuous shape, as I said, you want to make sure that you're only cutting inside of the blades on the end so that you don't get cuts in that location. And so to do that, I want to fold this strip so that it is 6 inches wide. And so I'm going to end up folding this into thirds because 6 times 3 is 18. So I apologize for making you do a little bit of math here to do this project, but it's a lot of fun when you get to the end. So, and because fabric has a little bit of thickness, it's not, your 6 inches aren't going to be super duper exact, but this is pretty close. So that's just folding, accordion folding that strip into thirds. So I've folded it back on itself this way and then back on itself this way. So I've got 3 layers. The Sizzix machine will cut up to 8 layers of cotton fabric. So I'm going to just prepare another piece here with the same intent, where I'm folding this into thirds. Okay, and then I can layer those 2 pieces on top of one another and make sure that I have aligned the edges. So I want this to be, now curves are pretty forgiving, so this is one of those pieces that that doesn't require 100% super duper precise accuracy because the curves are going to be forgiving, but you want to be pretty close. Okay, so here we go, aligning that. Then the next thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the die and I'm just laying my sheet of paper over the top just because I want to give the fabric just a little bit of help in sort of standing up so it doesn't sort of collapse into the clear dye. Now I want to build my proper Sizzix sandwich, so to cut with the Big Shot you need a cutting plastic on the bottom, so I'm going to place the cutting plastic or the cutting pad underneath the die. I've got the die here on top. I'm using my piece of paper just as a temporary support, and then I want to lay my fabric the correct way, which is the folds you want to be along the long edge of this bottle die. So hopefully that you can see that how I have this aligned, and I'll lift this up in a second. How I have this aligned is that my folds are on the outside here, or along the top and bottom of the bottle, so that the folds are, this is what's going to give me that continuous cut by making sure that my folds are aligned this way. Then I'm going to place my acrylic mat on top, or this cutting pad on top, and I'm going to slide the paper out from underneath the die. So I've wiggled that just a little bit. So you don't want a lot of pressure on top. You want to be able to get that paper out. So there goes the paper. Again, I'm not cutting with the paper. I just use that to give me some stability so that once I put the mat on top, the fabric is straight. Okay? So in comes the Big Shot Isis. You'll get to know Isis through my videos over the next several months and years, hopefully. And to make this cut, I just put the entire sandwich into the machine. So there's a cutting pad on the bottom, the die itself, the 2 strips of fabric that I layered on top, and then finally another cutting pad. So the way that Sizzix recommends that you do this is that you have the cutting pads leading in your sandwich a little bit here, so that the machine grabs the cutting pad and sort of compresses the whole thing. So you're going to run that through, just rotating the handle. It goes very easily. And so this is what it looks like when it comes out. So you're going to end up with the center fabric is going to collapse inside the die. So you want to be really careful when you grab these out. And then you just pull these out. And I'll move this die here in a second. So these are the pieces as they have come off of the die. Okay? And I'm just going to unfold these because I want you to see what this sort of looks like and how you can play around with these shapes to sort of match them up. And my cutting table is just getting filled with stuff. So here are the pieces as they have come off of the die. So I'm going to stack these up because these are the same. Alright, so what you get is a piece that is narrow at one end and fat on the other, and you're getting 3 full repeats of the bottle. So I don't know if you can actually see this, but this fold is where the bottle is. This is another bottle, and this is the third bottle. And these are, of course, going to be a 1/2 inch shorter than the original bottle die because we had to accordion fold inside that shape to get these. Now you're probably wondering, okay, this is good, but because these all fit together, but what if I wanted to alternate these? And so this looks to be a little bit problematic, but what's great about this sort of odd number of repeats is that if I just flip this around, now this shape nests inside the other one. And if I cut more of these pieces, you would see that as well, and you can nest as many of these pieces as you want. And this one, because I'm working with a solid, I can flip this upside down and do the same thing. So this is how you can get this sort of gently curving woven look. And this is the piece that I did with 4 colors, and you can see that I've done a little bit of trimming to cut this down because I'm trying to meet a specific requirement for the QuiltCon block challenge. But if you wanted to do this with longer pieces, just think in multiples of 6, and if you use the an odd number of repeats, you'll be able to get them to nest together like this. I've also got this little piece that I trimmed off the side of that block, and this is going to make a great partial mug rug or little wall hanging. So I'm going to work some more on that this afternoon. So that's how you cut with the bottle die to make this continuous shape. You can probably experiment with the same technique with other clear cut dies and others of the applique dies and come up with something really neat. So I hope you have happy quilting and happy die cutting as always.